the poor Queen Marie Antoinette, they had to do it 3 times before her head was totally chopped off her body. So after the French Revolution was over, when royalty was back, the King Louis-Philippe decided to make people forget about all the horrible things that happened here. So he called the square the Concorde Square, Concorde meaning forgiveness. On the left-hand side, this is Maxime's restaurant, one of the most famous and oldest restaurants in Paris. It's so expensive that next to it they opened a cafe called Minimes, because Maxime's maximum price, Minimes minimum price. They both belong to a fashion designer, French fashion designer called Pierre Cardin. He is still alive, and still not retired. So now we are entering a very chic shopping area, the Opera District. Straight ahead of us, there is a church called the Madeleine Church, Église de la Madeleine, straight ahead, with the columns. This church was built in the 18th century by King Louis XV. And you notice that the church is surrounded by columns. There are 52 columns around this church. They symbolize the 52 weeks of the year. And you notice that there is not a single window on the wall, because the windows are the windows are in the roof. So this is the Opera District. The Opera District is called so because of the Opera House that we will see at the end of this avenue. The Opera District is one of the main business districts of Paris, business and shopping district. Why shopping? Because in this neighborhood we have many department stores. One of them is Decathlon here on the right hand side. There will, behind the Opera House, there will be also the Galeries Lafayette and Printemps large department stores, also the perfume factory and outlet. So this is, and this is the reason why on a Saturday morning it's very quiet, because people will start going out shopping later on in the day, starting 11 o'clock. On the left-hand side, Olympia. Olympia, a red sign over there on that building. This is a very famous theater hall. It's the equivalent of the Carnegie Hall in London. So Olympia Theater Hall, whenever an artist performs there, it means that the artist has become very famous. Among the famous bands that performed in the Olympia were the Beatles in the 1960s and 70s. So the Opera House that we will see in a minute was built for Napoleon III. Napoleon III was the nephew of Napoleon I. And whereas Napoleon I was great warrior, Napoleon III was not a great warrior, but he loved art and architecture, and he loved to go attend ballet and theater and opera. So this opera house on the left-hand side was built by Napoleon III because somebody tried to kill him on the way into the old opera house, and so this is the reason why he wanted to have this new opera house built for himself in 1860 with a private entrance for his person. The thing is, by the time this opera house was inaugurated, 15 years later, in 1875, Napoleon had died in exile, so he never entered this opera house. And the architect of this opera house, just because he was the favorite architect of the emperor, to come attend the inauguration, he had to buy his own ticket to attend the inauguration. Nowadays, this opera house is open to the public during the day as a museum, and at night people can go watch a ballet show. They have a very niche, but this is how it is. I know that our Captain Nico is admiring this lady on the right-hand side who is doing her jogging very elegantly. You see, on the right-hand side? This is how they stay fit in Paris. Now, straight ahead of us, this is the Vendôme column in the middle of the Vendôme Square. The Vendôme column was built by Napoleon I, Bonaparte, to celebrate his victory over the Russians and the Austrians at the Battle of Austerlitz. Napoleon, he confiscated about 250 cannons from the enemy. He had them melted down, and he asked the artist to make with them this commemorative column with himself standing up there dressed like a Roman emperor. This column was inspired from the Trajan column in Rome. Look at the police here on the right-hand side. There might be two reasons why we have the police out here. One would be that one of those jewelry shops was robbed, maybe. It happens sometimes. And the other reason is that the employees of this hotel, the Park Hyatt on the right-hand side, is actually, I think this is the reason. Go very fast, and there was a car crash in the Alma Tunnel near Eiffel Tower, and Princess Diana died that night. So the Ritz Hotel is on the right-hand side. Can you see this, the Ritz with the white canopies on the right? This is the Ritz Hotel, one of the most famous hotels in Paris. This is where Princess Diana had dinner last time before she had the accident. And Ritz Hotel is very expensive hotel. If you want to rent a suite there, the cost of the suite would be 45,000 euros a night. Cheapest room is 4,000 euros a night. There is jewelry shops. There is one of the jewelry shops, Chaumet, where people are standing in line. This is the jewelry shop who was the official jewelry designer of Napoleon, Chaumet. He made the crown for the coronation of Chaumet. And this weekend, they are opening their workshops to the public. So that's why people stand in line to go watch Chaumet. And you have Chanel also on the right, Van Cleef & Arpels on the right, Cartier on the left, etc. So the Ritz Hotel is so expensive. They even have the most expensive cocktail drink in the world. 1,500 euros for one drink for his guests. And so his guests, imagine how much money he paid, and his guests, when they arrived to their room, they found a welcome gift. The welcome gift was a golden Rolex watch. And so that was the most expensive wedding in the world, more expensive than royal weddings, more expensive than the wedding of Princess Diana, of Prince Harry. The dome of the Opera House above, the Green Dome, is designed like an imperial crown because it was designed for the Emperor Napoleon III. It was thanks to Napoleon III that Paris looks the way you can see it today, with all these stone buildings with sculptures on them, because Paris was totally rebuilt in the mid-1800s at the time of Napoleon. And whenever there was a fire in one of the wooden houses, the fire would spread on all the district. So this is the reason why Napoleon III, this moon to visit, you will get a chance to take pictures of the pyramid this afternoon. On the way to the Louvre, on the left-hand side, there is called La Comédie Française. In this theater hall, they perform classical plays it's built by the Sun King Louis XIV. So since the royal family lived in Versailles outside of Paris, then the king in Paris, he gave the Louvre to his artists, his painters and sculptors, and he asked them to open it to the public. So this Louvre Palace became a museum before the French Revolution at the time, to suggest a main entrance to the Louvre. And so I.M. Pei, an American architect from Chinese origin, he came up with the idea of a glass pyramid, which is on the left-hand side. Look at the glass pyramid on the left. This was designed by I.M. Pei, an American architect from Chinese origin. This is the main entrance to the Louvre. When it was first built, the Parisians, they didn't like it. They thought it was ugly, because it's too modern. But now people like it, and it has become one of the main highlights of Paris. Right-hand side, there's a small Arc de Triomphe that was built by Napoleon I as a main entrance to the palace when this was a palace. Look through the arch on the right. In the middle of the arch, you can see the Concorde Square, where we started the tour, and also the big Arc de Triomphe, where we will go later on. This Louvre Museum is the second largest museum in the world. the second largest, because 4 months ago they opened another Louvre museum in Abu Dhabi in the Arab Emirates, and now the one in Abu Dhabi is the largest. But I mean, still, the Louvre Museum here, if you want to see each and every work of art in here, it would take you 6 months, 8 hours a day, considering you spend 1 minute in front of each and every work of art, and knowing that 1/3 of the work of art are not even on display because there is not enough. They stand in line for a couple of hours to go see Mona Lisa, and they get disappointed because Mona Lisa is so small, the painting, and the lady is not very pretty. Now on the on the right hand side, you're going to see a monument with the dome. It is the French Academy, built in 1648. Since a few years now, the word weekend has become French. Same with the word selfie. And in the middle of the Seine River, so this is the Seine River on the right hand side, in the middle of the Seine River there are 2 islands. There is the City Island, where Notre Dame Cathedral is, and there is the St. Louis Island. The City Island, you can see the tip of the island on the right hand side in the middle of the river. This is the oldest part of Paris. Actually, Paris, up until the Middle Ages, was only an island, and the tribe of fishermen and sailors, called the Parisi, who gave their name to Paris, they lived on the island, and because it was safer for them to live on an island. As the supreme judge, he had the court of justice inside to build palaces like the Louvre, for instance, and they left the court of justice behind. The court of justice stayed for over 1,000 years in this castle until a few months ago, just 5 months ago, when they moved it to another modern building in the northern part of Paris. And when the royal family left this castle became a prison. And this is where the Queen Marie Antoinette was put in prison. And this is where the Queen Marie Antoinette was put in prison before she was guillotined. Actually, thousands of nobles and priests were put in prison before they were guillotined during the French Revolution. So now that the Court of Justice is gone, the entire palace is open to the public as a museum. You can see on the right-hand side the 2 towers of Notre Dame Cathedral, where we are going to pass in front of it. But actually, the best view that you will get of the Notre Dame Cathedral is from the boat on the river cruise. On the right-hand side, if you look below the corner tower of the castle, there is a blue and golden clock. It is the oldest public clock in Paris. It's more than 600 years old, and it still functions. You can see the oldest public clock in Paris, blue and gold on the right-hand side. And now when we pass this bridge, on the right-hand side is the old. Notre Dame means Our Lady. Our Lady of Paris is Virgin Mary. Notre Dame Cathedral was built in 1163. That's the year when it was started, but it took about 200 years to build. You see, now we left the island, so you see that the island is very, very small. And now we are entering the Latin Quarter, the students' area. So they fired all the priests from the churches, like this one. And this church, they turned it into a mausoleum, like a big tomb for famous people. And in order to make it dark like a tomb, they removed all the glass windows, the stained glass windows, and they blocked the windows with stones to make it dark inside. So I will show you on the wall on the left-hand side. You see the wall on the left-hand side? You have traces of the former windows that were blocked. It's lighter color stone. So who is buried in there? Well, at first during the French Revolution, they used to bury politicians, like revolutionaries. But the problem is, every time we had to bring new ones in, and so at the end they decided that there should be no more politicians buried in here, only intellectuals, scientists, and artists. So among the famous celebrities who are buried in here, we have Victor Hugo. Victor Hugo is the writer who wrote the Hunchback of Notre Dame, and he arrived as a professor at the Sorbonne in the amphitheater. All the women ran and they sat in the front rows, and they left the boys in the back. And lately we had the latest person who was transferred in here was a French minister, Secretary of State, Simone Veil, and she was one of the survivors of the Auschwitz death camps. Beautiful old church. On the right hand side, this is another famous high school called Henry IV. Now soon on the right you will see a beautiful 5 centuries old church here on the right hand side, Saint Genevieve Church. They have a mass, so that's why people are entering that church. Straight ahead on the right, this is the library of the Sorbonne University, here on the right hand side. You can see the students standing in line to go to the library, but they are serious students on the right hand side. Straight ahead of us is the Law School of the Sorbonne University. It's here on the right hand side. This is the Law School of the Sorbonne University, also free university. And straight ahead of us, the other monument with the columns and the clock on it, this is the town hall of the 5th district. Each district in Paris has its own town hall. This is the university on the right and the town hall on the left hand side. There's no elevator to have access to these tiny rooms, and these defeating the devil. This is like the meeting point for everyone in the Latin Quarter. Whenever you want to meet someone, you just tell them, meet me at the St. Michael's Fountain. So that's why people are gathered there. And on the right hand side, you can see Notre Dame Cathedral with the 2 bell towers. Notre Dame Cathedral, this is where Napoleon crowned himself emperor in 1804 at Notre Dame Cathedral. Now straight ahead of us, the bridge with the arches. This is called Le Pont Neuf, which means the new bridge. The funny thing about it is that this is the oldest bridge in Paris. And why did they call it the new bridge?